I'm here at the Chandakriti Buddhist Center, Tibetan Buddhist Center in Upper Mutri, and believe it or not, it's summer. I'm wearing like a sweatshirt, a singlet, a t-shirt, and a toque on my head. It is summer, but I just finished meditating here. I'll show you where I've been meditating. This is a center I've been coming to in Upper Mutri, on the top of the South Island, for a few years now actually, to meditate. There's a meditation center here. When I'm in the area, I always come here to meditate because it's such a beautiful location, and the meditation hall is up there through the forest. And I want to do a video on meditation and a video on Buddhism and the nature of why I was drawn to Buddhism. This stupa here behind me is a long life stupa. You walk around it, it's dedicated to Tara. So as you walk around the stupa, you say Tara's mantra, green Tara's mantra, or Tara's mantra, which is Om Tare, Tutare, Ture, Soha. And you think of someone who's passed, and you wish them all the very best on their next incarnation, and that they attain a form of freedom from reincarnation, in my perspective anyway, or they have a better incarnation in the next incarnation, wherever they choose to incarnate. But that's entirely up to you in regards to how you choose to process that and how you choose to use the energy around your own walking around the stupa. And for me, walking around the stupa, saying that mantra, the Tara mantra, I think of my friend who passed last year in 2024, and here is the little angel, bring it up back closer so you can see, that he gave me for my safe travels. And now I'm wishing him safe travels. This is a little angel. I'm wishing him safe travels on his next adventure. And Tara, protect him on his new adventures. So when I was a raging booze hag, an alcoholic when I was in my 20s, and I was suppressing my trauma. I was suppressing my trauma in a massive way. I was suppressing all of my issues around the nature of my trauma. I'm going to walk around the stupa as I talk. I'll get dizzy. As I was in the process of really suppressing all the emotional content of how I felt at the time when I was drinking so heavily, because that's what I was doing. I was drinking to excess to suppress what was arising in me due to the nature of my trauma as a child, and the house that I grew up in, the experiences that I had as a child growing up with a father that was verbally and physically abusive to me, and a mother that was not supportive, or did her best to be supportive, let's be honest, to do her best to be supportive in a situation where she felt scared and unsafe herself. That trauma rose up in me like a wellspring and then became a volcano of anger and frustration, as all that was injected into me, all that was conditioned into me by my father and what he knew through his illness, because the alcoholism was an illness. I began to do exactly, I followed in his footsteps, and the genetic disposition, I guess you could say, potentially, to be an alcoholic became a big part of my life, and I became that which my father had been at probably my age, early 20s. An alcoholic. I was drinking, getting up in the morning, and I was drinking in the morning, first thing in the morning, getting up and drinking, and then I was drinking all day, every day, for about a year, drinking myself into a stupor. Not this kind of stupor, but an S-U-S-T-U-P-O-R kind of stupor. And I was drinking myself into a place of numbing my pain. And my pain got to a threshold in my life where I could no longer ignore it. And I was dating someone at the time who brought up in me all my issues around abandonment, all my issues around love. And this was obviously the universe bringing everything to a head for me, so I could come to a place where I realized I needed to change and shift and make some better choices in my life. When Helen left me, due to the nature of my actions towards her, but she was traveling anyway. This is my first real girlfriend when I was an alcoholic and I was drinking heavily. When she left me, I was crushed because I knew that I had become that which my father had been before me, and I knew also that I had a very serious issue with alcohol, and my suppression of my issues and my traumas was overwhelming me in a way that I could no longer ignore it. I had two choices at that time in my life. My first choice was to go to Queen Margaret Hospital in Hammer Springs for rehab, to rehab myself out of my alcoholism, which was a choice that I looked at quite seriously because I did think I needed help. And that was the first initial feeling around the nature of my decision to stop drinking, go to rehab and sort myself out. That was the first thing, to get off the physical addiction to alcohol and stop suppressing my emotional content that was rising up inside me. But then after that, almost like right behind the feeling was the feeling of going to it, the feeling and a decision and a choice offered to me to actually go to rehab, came this force that I can see came from my past life, when I was, in my past incarnation, a Buddhist monk. And I know that because I've been told that by several people who are very psychic and who could see that in me, and I now know that I was definitely a Buddhist monk in my last incarnation. Was I a Tibetan Buddhist monk? My attraction to Tibetan Buddhism pretty much for me signifies that I was a Tibetan Buddhist monk in my last incarnation. And I had this urge to learn how to meditate. And I told my mother as such. I said to her, I told my mother at the time on the phone, I called her up and said to her, Mum, I'm an alcoholic, like my father before me, and I need help. And I have this really strong desire to learn how to meditate. Can you help me to find someone in the Dunedin area where I'm living that will teach me how to learn how to meditate? And she got on the phone and she made some calls and she looked around and she found a lay Buddhist monk, a Tibetan Buddhist monk in Dunedin at the time, who was doing courses, learning how to meditate. And I did an 8-week course with that monk, a lay monk, with a group of people. And I came into that course, in total sobriety, and I learned how to meditate. I learned how to breath count. I learned how to get to a place of deep contemplation, and I learned metta meditation, or metta bhavana, which is loving kindness meditation. I didn't learn Tonglen, which is the compassionate meditation of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, but I incorporated the Tonglen into metta as well, because the two are very similar in the sense that they generate compassion. So I incorporated Tonglen and metta into a form of meditation that I still practice today, every day. And it changed my life forever. It gave me the tools for contemplation and introspection to know that I needed to do the work. It set me on the path. It set me on the path to liberation from those forces, those energies, those distractions in my life. And I go back to other distractions in my life. I go back to distractions such as sex and rock and roll and drugs. And lose my way for a little while, but not really lose my way as such, in a way that I had in my early 20s. I lost my way in the sense that I stopped meditating due to an experience that I had when I was meditating in my house in South Dunedin, a manor place, where I had a disembodied voice whisper in my ear my name in my right ear while I was meditating one night. it whispered in my right ear, and it came out my left ear, the voice did anyway. And it was a disembodied being was next to me whispering in my ear, and that freaked the fuck out of me. And I stopped meditating for about almost 15 years due to that experience, because it was just too crazy. Went too deep too fast, and that experience was just too much for me to handle. And I garnered the skills through my years of living in Vancouver with Suzanne Castange, who was my boss and my mentor in regards to my development of my psychic energy, my psychic abilities, for about 2 years. And through my own practices and my own experiences, I grew more adept is the right word. I grew more adept at actually being able to negotiate and understand through research and through deeper experiential connection with people who had greater skill base than I did, to come back to meditation and know that those experiences that I had that were deeply psychic, deeply otherworldly in their nature, those experiences were just things that I could negotiate, and I could come back to that place of stillness, that deep place of stillness, and also wonder in the void of meditation. And by focusing on my heart vortex, I could come back to that place of stillness and safety and feel like I was always resonating and bringing into my life the beings, the energies, the elementals that would resonate with that heart vortex energy, that meta energy, that meta meditation energy, and by doing that would feel safe. So Buddhism has been a big part of my life. I'm not a Buddhist. I wouldn't consider myself a Buddhist monk now, but I'm definitely drawn to the practices of Tibetan Buddhism and to Buddhism as such. But I am much more open to many experiences in regards to the nature of personal development. But Buddhism is an anchor for me. Buddhism is an anchor for me, and it has been since I was in my 20s. It brings me back to the essence of what this journey is all about for me, which is compassion. And the greatest, most compassionate thing I did last year, and probably in my life, was spend almost 2.5 months, almost, was it 12 weeks, 15, 14, and 14 weeks in total, with my friend who passed on in October last year, died of cancer. I spent almost 3 months with him, being his full-time carer, being my closest friend of 4 years, spending that time with him. Every moment to me meant everything to me, and that was the most compassionate and revealing and powerful experience of my life. And that brought me back to here, to Tara, to compassion, to my directive, which is bringing the angel here to the stupa, to see that my friend, who is now is what he always was, pure consciousness, is with Tara, and she's taking him on the adventure of eternity in a way that brings him greater peace, humour, and understanding and compassion for all beings. And here comes my full circle. I've come back to Buddhism here in Upper Mutri at the Chanda Kriti Meditation Centre. Thanks for watching, I truly appreciate it. Mā te wā. I'll see you again soon. Cool, eh? Such a beautiful spot. See ya.